The massive meteor blazed across Sonora's purple sky, a harbinger of destruction that would devastate the peaceful alien civilization below. Commander James Blackwood stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, his jaw set as he watched the readings climb higher. The meteor was twice the size they'd initially estimated, and none of the alien civilization's defensive measures would be enough to stop it. "Sir, impact in 30 minutes, Lieutenant Reed reported, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "The Xeneran evacuation is only at 20%. They won't get enough people to safety in time." James ran his hand through his dark hair, studying the tactical display. The Xenerans were a peaceful species, advanced in many ways but lacking in military technology. Their cities, built like delicate crystal formations, housed millions. The meteor would wipe out their largest population centers. "What if we used the Valiant's antimatter core?" James asked, already knowing the cost of what he was suggesting. A controlled detonation could fragment the meteor into manageable pieces. Reed's eyes widened. "Sir, at this range, the ship wouldn't survive the blast. We'd all." "I know." James straightened his uniform. "But we're looking at the extinction of an entire civilization. Send the evacuation order to the crew." "I'll handle this myself." "Commander, there has to be another way," Reed protested, but they both knew there wasn't. Not with the time they had left. James activated the ship-wide comm, "All hands, this is the commander. Proceed to emergency shuttles immediately. This is not a drill." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "It has been an honor serving with each of you." The bridge crew hesitated, torn between duty and survival. James fixed them with a stern look. "That's an order. Go." As the crew reluctantly departed, James contacted the Xeneran High Council. The alien leader, High Guardian Theron, appeared on screen, his iridescent scales reflecting the emergency lights of his command center. "Guardian Theron, we have a solution, but you need to get your people as far from the impact zone as possible," James explained. "My ship will destroy the meteor, but the explosion will create a shockwave." Theron's multifaceted eyes studied James intently. "Commander Blackwood, our sensors indicate your plan. The cost is worth it," James finished firmly. "Your people have so much to offer the galaxy. Consider this a down payment on future cooperation between our species." The alien leader bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect in their culture. "We will remember this sacrifice, Commander. Your name will be honored among our people for generations to come." As the last shuttle departed, James piloted the Valiant toward the meteor. The massive rock filled his view screen, its surface glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry. He had 10 minutes to position the ship perfectly. James thought of Earth, of the family he'd left behind. His parents would be proud, he hoped, even if they never knew exactly how he died. The official report would probably list him as killed in action, defending human interests in alien space. Close enough to the truth. "Computer, begin antimatter core overload sequence," James commanded. Authorization Blackwood Alpha 70. Warning, core overload will result in complete ship destruction. Please confirm. Confirmed. James watched the meteor grow larger. Route all power to forward shields. Let's make this count. The ship's engines strained as James pushed them to their limit, accelerating toward the meteor. Warning klaxons blared as the core temperature rose to critical levels. James kept his hand steady on the controls, making minute adjustments to their trajectory. "Core overload in 30 seconds, the computer announced dispassionately. James closed his eyes briefly, offering a silent prayer to whatever might be listening. When he opened them, his expression was serene. He'd joined the Space Marines to make a difference in the galaxy. No one could say he hadn't succeeded. Impact in 10 seconds. Core critical. The meteor filled his entire field of vision now, its surface a maze of craters and fissures. James aimed for the largest crack he could see, hoping to split the rock along its natural weaknesses. 5 seconds. James thought of the millions of Xeneran lives below. Their cities, their culture, their future. 3. He hoped they'd make the most of their second chance. 1. The antimatter core breached just as the Valiant struck the meteor. For a brief moment, James felt nothing. Then the universe turned white. From the surface of Xenora, the explosion looked like a second sun being born. The meteor shattered into thousands of pieces, most of which burned up in the atmosphere. The larger fragments were small enough for the Xeneran defense systems to handle. As emergency teams worked to protect the cities from debris, High Guardian Theron stood in his chamber, watching the lights in the sky. A human had given his life to save their civilization. The debt could never be repaid, but Theron had something in mind that might begin to balance the scales. Unknown to all, in the darkness of space, a single escape pod drifted among the meteor fragments, its lone occupant unconscious but alive. Commander James Blackwood's sacrifice would have unexpected consequences for both their civilizations. James awoke to the soft hum of medical equipment and the strange, sweet scent of alien flowers. His whole body ached, but he was surprisingly alive. The ceiling above him sparkled with bioluminescent crystals, casting a gentle blue glow across the room. "The human awakens," a melodic voice observed. "Most impressive." James turned his head to find a striking figure watching him. She was Xeneran, but unlike any he'd seen before. Her scales shimmered with an opalescent quality that marked her as royalty, and her eyes held an intelligence that seemed to pierce right through him. "I'm Princess Vena," she said, moving closer. "My father, High Guardian Theron, has been quite anxious for your recovery." James tried to sit up but found his muscles uncooperative. "The meteor, did we stop it?" "Your sacrifice saved millions," Vena confirmed. Though it seems the sacrifice was not quite as final as everyone believed. Her lips curved in what might have been a smile. "Your escape pod's emergency protocols activated at the last possible moment. Rather impressive technology." James remembered nothing after the impact. "How long have I been unconscious?" 3 lunar cycles, Vena replied. "Your physiology proved challenging for our healers. But they persevered. My father insisted on it." Before James could respond, the chamber doors slid open with a crystalline chime. High Guardian Theron entered, his formal robes catching the light. 2 guards flanked him, their ceremonial armor gleaming. "Commander Blackwood," Theron's voice filled the room. "You honor us by returning to consciousness." James managed to prop himself up slightly. "Guardian Theron. I'm relieved the plan worked." "More than worked. You saved our civilization." Theron moved closer, his expression solemn. "Which brings us to the matter of our debt to you." "There's no debt," James insisted. "I did what anyone would have done." Theron's laugh was like chimes in the wind. "You and I both know that's not true. You sacrificed everything for a people not your own. Such nobility must be rewarded." He gestured to Vena. "My daughter has spent these cycles studying your culture, preparing." James glanced at Vena, confused. "Preparing for what?" "To be your ward," Theron declared. "It is our highest honor, to pledge one's child to the service of another. Vena will accompany you, learn from you, and help bridge our peoples." James stared at them both, stunned. "Guardian Theron, I can't accept such an honor. Princess Vena surely has duties here." "My duty is to my people," Vena interjected smoothly. "And you saved my people. Therefore, my duty is to you." She tilted her head, studying him. "Unless you find the arrangement objectionable?" "No, of course not," James said quickly, not wanting to cause offense. "I'm just surprised." Excellent, Theron declared. Once you've recovered, you'll both return to your Earth Alliance posting. Vena will serve as our ambassador and your personal advisor. His eyes twinkled. I suggest you use the recovery time to learn about each other. You'll be spending quite a bit of time together. After Theron departed, Vena settled into a chair beside James's bed. You seem troubled, she observed. I'm not used to being given people as rewards, James admitted. Vena's scales rippled with amusement. I wasn't given, Commander. I volunteered. Do you know how many generations my people have dreamed of reaching the stars? Of joining the galactic community? She leaned forward. You gave us that chance. I intend to make the most of it. Over the next few weeks, as James regained his strength, he and Vena spent hours together. She taught him about Xeneran culture, their complex social hierarchies, and their unique view of the universe. In return, he shared stories of Earth, of humanity's struggles and triumphs among the stars. Your people are fascinating, Vena said one evening as they walked through the medical center's crystal gardens. So young, yet so determined. You face impossible odds with remarkable regularity. James smiled. We're too stubborn to know when to quit. Like saving an alien civilization with a suicide mission? Her tone was light, but her eyes were serious. Why did you really do it, Commander? James considered the question carefully. Because it was right. Because your people deserve a chance to reach their potential. He paused. And because sometimes the universe needs a reminder that humanity isn't just. James stood at the viewport of his newly assigned starship, the UES Horizon, watching as Xeneran engineers integrated their crystalline technology with human systems. Princess Vena worked alongside them, her knowledge proving invaluable in bridging the technological gap between their species. The integration is proceeding faster than expected, Vena reported, joining him at the viewport. Though some of your crew seem uncertain about the modifications. Change isn't easy for humans, James admitted. Especially when it involves alien technology. A sudden alert interrupted their conversation. Commander, Lieutenant Reed's voice came over the comm, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the Xeneran capital. You need to see this. In the command center, Reed displayed a holographic map showing mysterious energy pulses emanating from beneath the crystal cities. Vena's scales darkened with concern. Those signatures, they're coming from the ancient chambers. No one's supposed to have access to those. Ancient chambers? James asked. Before my father's time, our people created weapons of unimaginable power, Vena explained. They were sealed away when we chose the path of peace. Only the High Guardian should have access. James studied the readings. Could your father be conducting some kind of test? No, Vena's voice was firm. He would have informed me. Something is wrong. Further investigation revealed a disturbing pattern. Key members of the Xeneran military had been making unauthorized visits to restricted areas. Security protocols had been quietly altered. Resources had vanished from official inventories. It appears we have a shadow faction within our government, Vena said grimly as they reviewed the evidence in James's private quarters. They must have been planning this for years. The question is, what are they planning? James pulled up more data. These energy signatures match weapons testing. But why now? Vena's expression darkened. Because of you, James. Your actions prove that peace doesn't always guarantee survival. Some among my people have long argued that we've grown too soft. They're using what I did as justification to militarize, James realized. But your father wouldn't allow that. Unless they don't plan to give him a choice. Vena's scales rippled with agitation. We need to warn him. But reaching High Guardian Theron proved impossible. The palace security systems had been compromised, communications were being monitored, and loyal guards had been strategically reassigned. This goes deeper than we thought, James said as they regrouped in the Horizon's secure briefing room. They've been positioning their people for months, maybe years. Vena paced the room, her natural grace turned predatory. The ancient weapons were sealed for a reason. Their power comes at a terrible cost. Using them would transform our society, turn us into something we've fought for generations not to become. We need proof, James decided. Something concrete we can take to your father. Do you know where these ancient chambers are? Yes, but they're heavily guarded. Even attempting to enter without authorization would be seen as treason. James smiled grimly. Good thing I'm not a Xeneran citizen then. They planned their infiltration carefully. Vena's knowledge of the palace's secret passages combined with James's tactical experience gave them a chance, albeit a slim one. The real challenge would be getting past the biological scanners that guarded the most sensitive areas. These sensors are keyed to Xeneran life signs, Vena explained as they prepared. They'll detect me instantly. But you. She hesitated. You'll only have minutes before the automatic systems realize you're an unknown species. Minutes are all I need. James checked his equipment. Just be ready with the escape route. The mission nearly ended before it began. They'd barely entered the underground complex when alarms blared throughout the palace. But it wasn't their presence that triggered them. The weapons are powering up, Vena whispered, horror in her voice. They're actually doing it. They're staging their coup now. Above them, the crystal cities of Xenora began to pulse with ancient energies. The conspirators had decided to make their move, unaware that they'd forced James and Vena's hand. The ancient weapons pulsed with sickly green energy, sending waves of power through Xenora's crystal spires. James and Vena raced through the underground complex, following the energy signatures to their source. General Krell, Vena spat the name as they viewed the security feeds. I should have known. He's always resented my father's peaceful policies. The feeds showed the general, his scales dark with power corruption, standing before a massive crystalline structure. Other military leaders surrounded him, their forms already warped by exposure to the ancient energies. The weapons aren't just tools, Vena explained as they moved. They change those who use them. Enhance strength, aggression, at the cost of everything that makes us Xeneran. Your father? Imprisoned, but alive. They need him to maintain legitimacy. Vena's eyes hardened. Krell won't kill him until he's consolidated power. They reached the main chamber's outer doors. Inside, they could hear Krell addressing his followers. Too long have we hidden our strength. The humans' actions prove that peace is a luxury we can no longer afford. With these weapons, we'll take our rightful place among the stars. James checked his tactical display. The Horizon sensors are picking up massive energy buildups. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. The weapons need time to fully activate, Vena said. If we can disrupt the power flow. A squad of corrupted guards rounded the corner, their movements jerky and aggressive. James pulled Vena behind cover as energy bolts scarred the walls. They're between us and the main power conduits, James noted, returning fire with his stun weapon. It had little effect on the enhanced guards. Vena touched the crystal wall, her scales glowing faintly. There's another way. The city itself, it's all connected. I can use the crystal network to send a warning. They'll detect you. They already have. Vena smiled sadly. Keep them busy. James nodded, understanding what she planned. He broke from cover, drawing the guards' attention. Hey! Looking for a rematch? One human against all of you, seems fair. The guards charged, their tactical training overcome by weapon-induced rage. James led them away from Vena, using his environment and their lack of coordination against them. Meanwhile, Vena pressed her hands against the crystal wall, her consciousness extending into the city's network. Her message rippled through every crystal spire in the capital, images of Krell's betrayal, the corrupting influence of the weapons, and a call to resist. In the streets above, civilians watched in horror as their city's crystals displayed the truth. The military coup lost its veneer of legitimacy in an instant. But Krell wasn't finished. The general's laughter echoed through the complex as the ancient weapons reached full power. It doesn't matter. Once we activate the final sequence, they'll all be like us. The entire population will be enhanced, whether they want it or not. James fought his way back to Vena, who had collapsed from the effort of her broadcast. Tell me there's a way to stop this. The weapons, she gasped. They're connected to the same crystal network. But disrupting them would require. She looked at him meaningfully. A massive energy surge? James helped her up. Like an antimatter core breach? You're not sacrificing yourself again, Vena declared firmly. No, James agreed, pulling up the Horizon schematics. But we might be able to create a targeted surge from the ship. If we can link it to the crystal network. A massive explosion rocked the complex. Through their neural link to the weapons, Krell's forces felt it too. The general roared in rage. Find them. Kill them both. James and Vena ran, their plan forming as they moved. They'd need perfect timing, coordination between human and Xeneran technology, and more than a little luck. But they'd already saved this world once. The Horizon hung in low orbit above Xenora, its human-alien hybrid systems humming with unprecedented power. Lieutenant Reed's fingers flew across the controls, integrating the ship's antimatter core with the planet's crystal network. The surge could tear the ship apart, she warned. Better than letting those weapons corrupt an entire civilization, James replied from the surface. He and Vena had fought their way to the central control chamber, where General Krell's forces were making their final stand. You can't stop evolution, Princess, Krell growled, his once regal form now twisted by the weapon's influence. Our people must adapt or perish. This isn't evolution, Vena countered, her scales bright with determination. It's corruption. Everything our ancestors fought to overcome. The ancient weapons pulsed faster, their energy spreading through the crystal network. Already, reports came in of civilians showing signs of transformation. They were running out of time. Reed, James commanded, initiate the surge on my mark. The timing has to be perfect, Vena added, her hands pressed against a crystal console. I'll channel the surge through the network, but if we're off by even a second. Krell laughed, the sound distorted. You'll destroy everything. The cities, the weapons, maybe even the planet itself. Sometimes, James met Vena's eyes, you have to risk everything to save what matters. Vena nodded, understanding passing between them. In the weeks they'd spent together, they'd learned to trust each other completely. Human determination and Xeneran wisdom, working in perfect harmony. Now! James shouted. The Horizon's antimatter core released a controlled surge just as Vena opened the crystal network fully. Energy cascaded through the city's spires, following paths she created. The weapons tried to resist, their ancient programming fighting back. Krell and his followers screamed as their connection to the weapons was severed. The corrupting energy tried to escape, to find new hosts, but Vena's control of the network was absolute. She channeled everything into a containment chamber deep beneath the surface. The strain was enormous. Blood trickled from Vena's scales as she maintained the connection. James supported her, lending his strength. Above them, the Horizon systems redlined. With a final surge, the weapons overloaded. Their energy, trapped and redirected, imploded. The blast was contained, leaving only a sealed chamber of inert crystal. In the aftermath, as security forces rounded up Krell's surviving followers, High Guardian Theron was freed. He found James and Vena in the palace gardens, watching crews repair the crystal spires. Once again, we owe you our civilization, Theron said. Both of you. We succeeded because we worked together, James replied. Human and Xeneran. Indeed. Theron's eyes twinkled. Which is why I'm modifying my original decree. Vena will still serve as our ambassador, but not as your ward. He paused meaningfully. If you both agree, she'll serve as your partner instead. A true union between our peoples. Vena's scales shimmered with emotion. Father. Only if you wish it, Theron added. But I've seen how you work together. What you've achieved. Perhaps it's time for both our species to evolve, not through ancient weapons, but through understanding and cooperation. James looked at Vena, seeing not just an alien princess, but someone who'd fought beside him, challenged him, and helped him see the universe in new ways. I'd be honored, he said softly. Vena's answering smile was radiant. As would I. In the years that followed, their union became a symbol of what humanity and Xenora could achieve together. The crystal cities were rebuilt, stronger than before. The Horizon became the first of many hybrid ships, combining the best of both civilizations' technologies. And if anyone doubted whether two such different species could truly work together, they needed only look to the stars, where human determination and Xeneran wisdom had forged something entirely new, hope for a future where differences were not barriers, but bridges to something greater than either civilization could achieve alone.